Story 1. Taking candy from babies can be dangerous as they might choke on it. Children should be at least 18 months old before eating solid candy, and even then they should be supervised to prevent choking. Story 2. Disagreeing with someone's cultural practices is acceptable. You don't have to make them feel bad or actively stop them, but it is okay to say, "I understand that is your culture, but I don't agree with it and think it is unethical." Tradition is not immune to critique. Story 3. Most people agree on this. Some schools punish the victim for standing up for themselves instead of the bully. Some individuals only learn when they face consequences. Story 4. Swearing involves using offensive language. While you can insult someone by calling them a worthless moron, certain terms may be seen as crossing a line. Story 5. A potential future development in medicine involves scientific treatments aimed at reducing or eliminating diseases before they occur, such as gene editing. For instance, if it were possible to prevent a child from being born with Down syndrome through gene editing, some may argue that this constitutes eugenics or genocide of disabled individuals. However, I believe that if you can ensure a healthy baby, you should pursue that option. Story 6. I have had several people tell me it is not ethical to change jobs frequently, suggesting that I should stay with any given company for a minimum of 3 years. I disagree. Any company would take advantage of its employees if it were legal and profitable. Anyone can be terminated at any time. If I can secure a 10% raise by taking a new job, I owe it to my family's future to make that move. Story 7. Piracy is particularly relevant for individuals from developing countries. Many feel overlooked and question why they should pay for one of the few sources of entertainment that can enhance their lives. Story 8. Gene editing and selection. Why not remove certain genetic diseases from the gene pool entirely? It would save so much pain and suffering. Story 9. At work, if someone loses a charger for their iPad or laptop, we are supposed to have them replace it. However, if it was an accident or something beyond their control occurred, we do not require a replacement. I advise everyone writing the report to phrase it as an accident. Some coworkers think this is unethical, but I don't mind. Story 10. I feel like this might get me a lot of criticism, but I am open to any counterarguments. I believe it is fair to openly criticize someone's religion. If you are going to openly believe in something, you should be able to support it. Story 11. It is apparently unethical to donate leftover food from your restaurant chain to the soup kitchen, at least according to corporate interests. Story 12. Honestly, genetically modified organisms, especially crops engineered for higher yields in harsh environments, can greatly benefit agriculture. For instance, mosquitoes modified for shorter lifespans can limit the development of malaria-causing microbes, thereby reducing the death rate from this major health threat. I understand the concerns surrounding genetically modified organisms and the potential for misuse, as illustrated in Jurassic Park, which serves as an allegory for the abuse of such technology for profit. However, what we really need to address these issues is proper laws and regulations to ensure responsible use of the technology. Story 13. That violence is inherently bad or wrong. Yes, sometimes violence is the answer. Sayings like, "turn the other cheek," have been distorted from their original meaning. I'm not suggesting causing chaos for every little issue, but I cannot help rolling my eyes when people claim that violence is never the answer. Because, honestly, there are times it's the only thing that yields results. Story 14. A bit of a niche topic, but on the current Ghost tour, all phones are banned. Someone managed to sneak in a cassette recorder to one of the shows and recorded the entire performance on cassette. This led to the fandom going wild because the individual disrespected the artist's wishes for a phone-free show. The recorder pointed out that they were still technically phone-free, as they used a cassette recorder hidden under their shirt. I have no issues with this for 2 reasons. 1. I was fortunate enough to attend one of the tour dates, but many people were not. This gives those who weren't present an option to experience the show. The artist would have definitely done this when he was younger. Ghost fans, you know that Tobias grew up on bootlegs. Story 15. Backpack leashes for children allow kids to explore while parents can have peace of mind without worrying about someone taking them when they turn their back for a moment. Story 16. Not standing up for the Pledge of Allegiance feels strange to me. American schools require children to pledge loyalty to their country every day, even though many of those children are not old enough to fully understand how their government operates or to agree or disagree with politicians. In my experience, some older teachers would become upset if a student did not stand for this. I hope they are not as strict about it anymore, but another issue is that students are expected to say "one nation under God," which imposes a specific religious belief when America is known for its diverse cultures. The more I reflect on the teachers who would yell at students for avoiding the pledge, the angrier I feel for not speaking up myself. Story 17. Prostitution is a topic that raises various ethical questions. While it becomes unethical in cases where individuals are exploited, such as someone being forced into it to pay off a debt, I believe there is no issue with consenting adults engaging in the exchange of sex for compensation. Story 18. We should be able to challenge people to mutual fistfights whenever we want and have it be legal. Customer service could use this when dealing with difficult individuals. I don't mean to be aggressive or anything. I'm all for talking it out with people. Seriously, verbal judo works if the person is willing to listen to reason. But if they're being unreasonable and clearly just trying to get their way, right, that's enough of that. Let's settle this. Several minutes later. Man, these coupons are expired. No more. Story 19. Having indoor cats has led some outdoor cat owners to label me as abusive, arguing that cats should not be confined indoors and require enrichment. However, studies show that indoor cats generally live twice as long as outdoor cats. So, who is really the neglectful cat owner? Additionally, I find it problematic to suggest that being outside is the only source of enrichment for cats. Even if that were the case, you can take them for walks on a leash or use a catio to allow them outside safely, protecting them from harm. Story 20. Honestly, snooping a bit on someone's social media before a date is reasonable. It's public, it's about safety, and I'm just being smart. Story 21. Killing the ones you love. Much like a pet, if my wife reaches a point where she can't do anything and becomes a shell of herself, then I should be able to help her end her suffering. It is cruel to the person directly affected and to everyone around them. When I was a child, my grandfather forgot how to eat and talk, forgot his family, and spent about 8 years in decline before passing away. It affected my mother deeply because she could not communicate with her dad and watched him deteriorate. Humans already play a godlike role, so why can't we decide when it is a good time to help someone die with dignity? Either let me go peacefully, or the moment I start losing control of my bodily functions because I forget what a bowel movement feels like, I will find a way to end my life. Story 22. I believe the concept of an eye for an eye is reasonable in certain situations. For example, if someone intentionally harms another person, they should face similar consequences. Story 23. Challenging someone's views, even when you first meet them, can be important. If they are confident enough to share a viewpoint, they should be prepared to defend it. Story 24. Public health measures such as vaccines and fluoride should be mandatory. Parents should not have the authority to decide whether their children receive vaccines. Story 25. Being straightforward in various ways, such as expressing your discomfort with someone or addressing a stranger's inconsiderate behavior in a public place, is valuable. I appreciate when people provide me this feedback, as I learn from it. Story 26. Any victimless crime, including the piracy of something you had no chance of ever purchasing or that I already purchased for one platform but want to use on another as well. Story 27. Dumpster diving on public property. I found many cool or not so cool things in dumpsters. Story 28. Ignored bill collectors. I'm talking about those who pay off your debt and then demand you pay them what often seems like far more than you originally owed, with higher interest than agreed upon. In my opinion, people should treat them like good Samaritans who have paid off the debt. Story 29. Enjoying art and media created by controversial individuals is a personal choice. Do whatever makes you happy in this world. Everyone faces challenges. We all navigate difficult circumstances together. Story 30. Not dating someone because you think they are unattractive is a common concern. People often react strongly to this idea, It's important to note that valuing looks does not make you a bad person, nor does it mean you exclusively focus on appearance. Most people, in fact, desire an attractive partner with good character. Attraction is subjective. Ultimately, why should anyone care about your dating choices? Story 31. I support the legalization of physician-assisted suicide in all states. After witnessing my grandmother's suffering in hospice care, where the only option was to administer morphine for her pain, I became an advocate for physician-assisted suicide. Story 32. Public nudity is not about performing obscene acts, and we can all support keeping public spaces sanitary. But places like the beach or locker rooms, and even some entertainment venues, showcase human bodies. If we were more accustomed to seeing them, we might not focus on insecurities or have unrealistic expectations of the average person. Story 33. I find it amusing that some people are offended by swearing. I choose to be upset by that arrangement of letters. Story 34. In survival situations where people resort to cannibalism, it is often portrayed as a significant moral dilemma that survivors must confront. However, I would bring it up just 5 minutes into our predicament by asking, so, are we going to eat the deceased? Story 35. Choosing a partner based on height, weight, looks, or any criteria is acceptable as long as you communicate it upfront. Isn't it the same as choosing based on gender? Story 36. Calling out religious arguments at the root. Most people are only willing to argue with religious individuals on their own terms, saying things like, well, the Republicans don't understand that Jesus was an Arab immigrant, or, well, the Bible says you're not allowed to use mixed fabrics either, but I don't see anyone trying to put that into law. However, I truly do not care. God is not real, and you are delusional, and I will call you out on it. The same goes for every other worldview that lacks any basis in reality, such as social hierarchies, the Great Replacement Theory, broken windows theory, and so on. Story 37. I am dating someone a few months older than my father. People call him a groomer. I am nearly 30, and I initiated the flirting. People are still upset about it. Story 38. I think it looks interesting. Perhaps they should upgrade the workers' area to make it look less like a dungeon, but I believe it would be enjoyable to visit a cafe and watch traditional Thai tobacco work. Story 39. Open marriages. If both parties truly consent, then why is this anyone else's business? Story 40. Ghosting occurs when someone chooses not to communicate with another person. Typically, it is not about being rude. Rather, it may signify a lack of interest in conversation. If a person is not married to you or is not a significant member of your family, they may simply wish to disengage. It is essential to respect people's right to choose whom they wish to communicate with and to move on. Story 41. Doubt it happens much these days, but grave robbing occurs. Those individuals are not using those items anymore. It was foolish in the first place to bury them with anything valuable. Story 42. Age-appropriate and research-based education on sex, sexuality, and gender in schools is essential. Many people view these topics as belief-based, but there is extensive scientific research on them. Some parents insist on passing their inaccurate beliefs to their children, disregarding the evidence that contradicts those views. Educational systems often prioritize appeasing this ignorance, leaving children to navigate these complex issues alone, often influenced by other uninformed peers. This can lead to confusion and negative self-perception. Many adults do not even understand the differences among sex, sexuality, and gender, which is detrimental to society. Consider parents who deny their children the opportunity to study science or geography because it contradicts their beliefs. Such decisions can profoundly affect children's education, particularly when they reach college, where their parents no longer have input. This can impact their social experiences and overall development. Yet, for some reason, similar objections are accepted when it comes to sex, gender, and sexuality education. Story 43. Some forms of vigilante justice exist. For example, I know someone whose first husband used to abuse her and the children before they escaped. He ultimately was murdered in an execution-style killing by another individual for his actions as an abuser. Story 44. Australia is experiencing a severe housing crisis alongside a cost of living crisis, with landlords keeping properties empty for decades. Recently, a woman made headlines complaining about squatters occupying her property. The article seemed to target a candidate running in the upcoming elections who supports squatting. Toward the end of the article, it was noted that the house had been empty since 2007. There are people without homes while some individuals allow houses to deteriorate, not selling, not renting, and not maintaining them. Story 45. Not commenting on political or geopolitical posts. A few years ago, it was normal, but now, especially among the youth, it has become a significant issue and is considered unethical. I prefer to use my words on other topics that may not come back to haunt me later. Story 46. Stealing from the ultra-wealthy. Do you need food and can't afford it? I see no issue with taking something from a large chain retailer. I'm not going to do it, but I won't report someone who does or think less of them. Story 47. Wearing shoes based on comfort rather than appearance in the workplace is important. I have reached a point where I prioritize comfort, so I wear my athletic shoes. The best part is that I excel in my job, which is reflected in my reviews, so no one questions my choice of footwear. I walked by a senior manager giving feedback to another employee about their footwear professionalism while wearing a pair of Adidas high tops. Story 48. Showing intimate scenes in television and movies. You can't show intimacy on television, but you can show someone being beheaded. It's oddly puritanical. One of these acts is necessary for the continuation of the species and is considered obscene, while the other is an act of wanton violence and is viewed as cool. This is a ridiculous double standard. Story 49. Books in school. We should not take a book out of a library because a group of people dislikes the content. Using it as curriculum and teaching from it is a different matter. However, restricting access to diverse viewpoints is wrong. Monitor what your own child checks out. Do not prevent other children from accessing it. Story 50. Media piracy. The issue with stealing isn't that I received something I didn't earn. It's that I've taken it from someone else. If I steal 10 euros, then I didn't just create 10 euros from nothing. Someone else had to suffer a 10 euro loss. However, piracy doesn't cause that. It merely creates a copy, and no one loses anything. If I use pirated software to generate income, that's unethical because the developers of that software contributed to whatever I created and deserve compensation for their work. But for personal use, for my own entertainment, who is harmed by that? It affects no one but me, so why shouldn't I? Story 51. I don't know if it counts as unethical to date your friend's ex. Everyone says you shouldn't do that, but I feel that I personally would not have a problem with it. Maybe not literally the next day, but if they are into each other, you shouldn't stop them. Story 52. Performing minimal work while employed at a low-paying job in retail or hospitality is often seen as unimportant. Story 53. Most forms of ghosting occur when, after a few dates, someone simply disappears. In such cases, their silence is an answer. If you are acquaintances with someone and they ghost you, that is your answer as well. In most other relationships, there is usually an explicit breakup or a natural fading away from each other. I had friends 5 years ago whom I no longer see. There is no hard feeling. We were just heading in different directions. If they reached out to me or I reached out to them, I am sure we would be happy to reconnect. Sometimes, friendships just run their course and time is finite. I see people getting upset and demanding answers from those who have ghosted them, and I wonder, is this going to help or make you feel better? When someone says, "I'm just not feeling any connection," they often have to deal with an angry person attempting to change their mind or asking for specific reasons why. Story 54. Eating animals that are usually considered pets raises strong feelings in people. Why do they take it so personally? It is similar to how some cultures do not eat animals that others consider sacred. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.